What happens when two of daytime television's most beloved hosts sit down for what should be a friendly conversation, but instead ignite a firestorm that ends with one of them walking off set in front of a live studio audience? This is the story of the interview that nobody saw coming, the clash that left viewers speechless, and the moment that proved even the warmest smiles can hide the deepest tensions. Before we dive into what went down, make sure you subscribe to the channel and drop a comment below telling me whose side you're on after hearing this whole story. Because trust me, you're going to have opinions. Kelly Clarkson's talk show has built its reputation on warmth, authenticity, and those heart-to-heart moments that make viewers feel like they're sitting right there in the conversation. When Ricki Lake was announced as a guest, it seemed like the perfect pairing. Two women who had dominated daytime television in their own eras, both known for breaking boundaries and keeping it real with their audiences. The studio audience was buzzing with excitement as Kelly took the stage, flashing that signature smile that has made her show such a hit. Kelly started off the way she always does, with genuine enthusiasm. "I am so excited about today's guest. You guys, she revolutionized daytime talk. She's been an activist, an actress, and honestly, just someone I've admired for years. Please welcome Ricki Lake." The audience erupted in applause as Ricki walked out, waving and smiling. The two women embraced, and for those first few moments, everything seemed perfect. They settled into their chairs, and Kelly dove right in. "Ricki, I have to tell you, growing up and watching your show, it was unlike anything else on television. You were tackling topics that other people wouldn't touch. What made you want to push those boundaries so early in your career?" Ricki leaned back, her expression shifting to something more serious. "Well, Kelly, I think when you come from a place of authenticity, you don't see them as boundaries. You see them as conversations that need to happen. I never went into that show thinking I was being provocative. I went in thinking I was being honest." Kelly nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely. And I think that's what connected with so many people. But I'm curious, looking back now, is there anything you would have done differently? Any topics you wish you'd approached from another angle?" There was a pause, just a beat too long, and something flickered across Ricky's face. "You know, that's an interesting question, Kelly. Are you asking me that because you genuinely want to know? Or because there's this narrative that my show was somehow irresponsible?" The audience went quiet. Kelly's smile faltered just slightly. No. I'm asking because I think it's fascinating to hear how people reflect on their work. I mean, I look back at my first season, and there are things I cringe at." Ricky's posture straightened. "But see, that's the difference. You're talking about cringing at yourself. The question you just asked me, whether I meant it or not, it carries this implication that I should be ashamed of what I did, and I'm not." Kelly's eyes widened, and she let out a small laugh, the kind people do when they're trying to diffuse tension. "Ricki, I promise you, that was not my intention at all. I have nothing but respect for what you built." "Respect," Ricki repeated, and there was an edge to her voice now. "You know what I find interesting, Kelly? Your show, it's lovely, it's safe, it's comfortable. You sing with your guests, you cry with your guests, everyone leaves feeling warm and fuzzy. But my show, we got into the mess. We didn't shy away from conflict or discomfort. And now, years later, I'm supposed to sit here and answer for that like it was a mistake?" The tension in the studio was palpable now. Kelly shifted in her seat, clearly trying to regain control of the conversation. "I think you're misunderstanding me. I'm not asking you to answer for anything. I'm asking you to share your perspective, which is what we do here. We have conversations." Ricki let out a short laugh. "Conversations? Right. Tell me something, Kelly. How many times have you had guests on this show who've challenged you, who've made you uncomfortable? Or is it always just this mutual admiration society, where everyone agrees and claps and goes home happy?" Kelly's face flushed. "That's not fair. I've had plenty of difficult conversations on this show. Have you? Ricki pressed. Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you've built a brand on being likable. And there's nothing wrong with that, but don't pretend it's the same thing as what I did. Don't sit here and ask me if I have regrets when you've never taken the kind of risks that would give you any. The audience was completely silent now, and you could see some people exchanging uncomfortable glances. Kelly took a breath, and when she spoke again, her voice was measured, but there was steel underneath it. Ricki, I invited you here because I admire your work, and I thought we could have a meaningful conversation. But if you came here with an agenda to tear down what I do, then maybe we should just address that directly. Ricki's eyes narrowed. An agenda? You think I have an agenda? Kelly, I've been doing this for decades. I don't need an agenda. What I need is for people to stop acting like the work I did was somehow less valid because it wasn't polished and pretty. You want to talk about meaningful conversations? Let's have one. Let's talk about how women in this industry are constantly pitted against each other. How we're told there's only room. Kelly's face went pale at those words. A stepping stone? Ricki, that is incredibly unfair. I have never, not once, disparaged what you did. I've only ever spoken about you with respect. Respect with conditions, Ricki countered, her voice sharp. Respect as long as I acknowledge that my way was flawed and yours is better. That's not respect, Kelly. That's condescension, dressed up in a pretty package. Kelly's hands were trembling now, and you could see her fighting to maintain her composure. I don't know what happened before you came out here, or what you've been carrying with you, but you're projecting something onto me that I don't deserve. I asked you one question about reflection, which is something I ask almost every guest, and you've turned it into this attack on my entire show and my character. Ricki picked up her microphone from the chair and held it for a moment, as if weighing her next words carefully. You want to know what I've been carrying, Kelly? I've been carrying 30 years of people telling me that what I did was cheap, that it was sensational, that it wasn't real journalism or real talk television. And I've watched hosts like you get praised for doing a sanitized version of what I pioneered. So when you sit there and ask me about regrets, yeah, it hits a nerve. The audience was riveted now, and several people were recording on their phones despite the rules against it. Kelly took a step closer, and her voice dropped lower, more intimate. I hear you. I really do. And if that's how the industry has made you feel, then that's wrong. But I'm not the industry, Ricki. I'm just someone who grew up watching you and wanted to have a conversation with you. Then why didn't you do your homework? Ricki demanded. Why didn't you know that this is a sore spot? Why didn't you approach this differently if you really admire me so much? Kelly's frustration was bubbling to the surface now. Because I'm not psychic, Ricki. I can't know every sensitive topic for every guest. I prepare, I research, but I'm also trying to have a genuine conversation, not read from a script that's been vetted by a team of lawyers and publicists. I thought you, of all people, would appreciate that kind of authenticity. Authenticity, Ricki repeated, and there was something bitter in her tone. You keep using that word. You want authentic? Fine. Authentically, I think you've built your success on being the anti-Ricki, the safe choice, the host who won't make anyone uncomfortable. And that's fine, Kelly. That's a legitimate choice. But don't invite me here and then act surprised when I call out the subtext of your questions. Kelly's eyes flashed with anger now. You know what? You're right. Let me be authentic for a second. You walked onto this stage with a chip on your shoulder, looking for a fight. I extended an olive branch, I gave you a platform, and you've spent the last 10 minutes attacking me and everything I've built. So maybe the problem isn't me or my questions. Maybe the problem is that you're so defensive about your legacy that you can't have a normal conversation without turning it into a referendum on your entire career. The audience gasped again, and a few people actually applauded. Ricki's expression hardened. There it is, the real Kelly Clarkson. Not so warm and fuzzy when someone pushes back, are you? Kelly's voice was steady now, controlled. I'm human, Ricki. And when someone comes onto my show and accuses me of having ulterior motives, of using them, of being inauthentic, yeah, I'm going to defend myself. That doesn't make me fake. That makes me honest. Honest, Ricki said, and she laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want honest? Honestly, I think you're threatened by me. I think having me here, someone who did this before you and did it differently, makes you uncomfortable because it raises questions about your approach, about whether playing it safe is really the same thing as being genuine. Kelly shook her head slowly. You don't know me at all if you think that. I've had Oprah on this show. I've had Ellen. I've had people who are legends in this space, and not once did I feel threatened, because I'm secure in what I do and why I do it. But you're so busy fighting battles from decades ago that you can't see when someone is actually on your side. Ricki's eyes were glistening now, though whether from anger or hurt was impossible to tell. On my side? You're on my side? Then why did it feel like an interrogation from the moment I sat down? It felt like an interrogation because you decided it was one before I even finished my first question, Kelly said, her voice rising. I asked you about reflection. That's it. One question about looking back on your career with the wisdom of hindsight. That's not an attack, Ricki. That's a conversation starter. But you came out here ready to be defensive, ready to fight, and nothing I said was going to change that. Ricki was quiet for a moment, and you could see the wheels turning in her head. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter but no less intense. Maybe you're right. Maybe I did come out here defensive. But can you blame me? Do you know how many times I've sat in interviews where the host has basically asked me to apologize for my show? Where they've treated me like a relic of a less enlightened time? Kelly's expression softened slightly. No, I can't blame you for being defensive if that's been your experience. But I can tell you that's not what I was doing. And if you can't hear that, if you can't accept that maybe you misread this situation, then I don't know what else to say. You want me to apologize for misreading you? Ricki asked, incredulous. While you stand there and tell me I have a chip on my shoulder and that I'm fighting old battles? I'm not asking for an apology, Kelly said. I'm asking for you to consider that maybe, just maybe, not everyone is out to diminish your legacy. Maybe some of us actually want to celebrate it. Ricki laughed again, that same hollow sound. Celebrate it by asking if I have regrets? That's a strange way to celebrate someone. Kelly threw her hands up. It was one question, Ricki. One question, but then Ricki shook her head slowly. No, I don't think I can do that, Kelly. Because even if we start over, even if we pretend the last 10 minutes didn't happen, we both know they did. And we both know that the foundation of this conversation is cracked now. There's no coming back from that. Kelly's face fell. So that's it? You're just going to walk away? I'm going to preserve my dignity, Ricki said quietly. And I'm going to trust my instincts, which are telling me that staying here would be a mistake. Kelly's voice hardened again. Your instincts? Or your pride? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Ricki's eyes flashed. My pride? You think this is about pride? Kelly, this is about self-respect. This is about not sitting somewhere where I feel like I have to defend my entire existence. Nobody asked you to defend your existence, Kelly shot back. You chose to take it there. You chose to make this bigger than it needed to be. Because it is bigger than one question, Ricki said, her voice rising again. It's bigger than this interview. It's about how women like me get treated once we're no longer the shiny new thing. It's about how we get reduced to punchlines and cautionary tales while the next generation acts like they invented authenticity. Kelly's laugh was sharp and humorless. There you go again, making this about me, somehow claiming to have invented something. I have never done that. Not once. But you're so determined to cast me as the enemy that you can't hear what I'm actually saying. What are you actually saying then, Kelly? Ricki demanded. Strip away the talk show host polish and tell me what you really think. Do you think my show was trash? Do you think I exploited people? Do you think daytime television is better off without shows like mine? The silence that followed was deafening. Kelly opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. I think your show was groundbreaking for its time. I think it gave voice to people who didn't have one. I also think, and I'm being honest here because you asked for honesty, that there were moments where I questioned whether all of your guests fully understood what they were signing up for. But that doesn't mean I think you exploited anyone. It means I think the format was complicated, like a lot of things in media are complicated. Ricky's expression was unreadable. So you do judge it? I'm not judging it, Kelly said, frustration clear in her voice. I'm acknowledging complexity. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing, Ricki said. From where I'm standing, you just confirmed everything I suspected when I walked out here. You think you're better than what I did. You think your approach is more ethical, more responsible. Kelly's eyes were blazing now. You want to talk about criticism? You want to talk about being judged? I've been told I'm too emotional, too real, not polished enough, too much of a singer trying to be a talk show host. I've been compared to every woman who's ever sat in this chair and found lacking in 1,000 different ways. So don't stand there and act like you have a monopoly on being misunderstood or underestimated. Ricki was quiet for a beat, and when she spoke, her voice was cold. The difference is, your critics are wrong. Mine apparently have a point, at least according to you. That's not what I said, Kelly protested. You asked me a direct question and I gave you an honest answer. I said the format was complicated. That's not the same as saying your critics were right. It's close enough, Ricki said. And it's honest enough for me to know that I don't belong here. Kelly took a deep breath, and when she spoke again, there was a weariness in her voice. Ricki, I don't want you to leave like this. Whatever you think of me, whatever I think of the situation, I don't want this to be how this ends. Why? Ricki asked bluntly. Because it'll look bad? Because people will talk? Because it's sad, Kelly said simply. Because two women who should be allies are standing here unable to find common ground. That's what's sad about this. Ricky's face softened for just a moment. You're right. It is sad. But sometimes, sad is honest. Ricki adjusted her jacket and looked directly at Kelly. I didn't come here to blow up your show. I came here thinking maybe we could have the conversation that everyone else has been too afraid to have. About legacy, about evolution, about what we owe to the people who came before us. But I don't think we're ready for that conversation. Or maybe we just needed more time, Kelly offered. Maybe this needed to happen somewhere without cameras and audiences. Maybe, Ricki agreed. But this is what we have. This moment, this mess. Kelly managed a small, sad smile. I think it says we all carry more baggage than we realize. There was a long pause where neither woman spoke. The audience was completely still. Finally, Ricki took a step toward the exit. Kelly's voice stopped her. Ricki, wait. Whatever happens after this, I want you to know that I meant it when I said I admired you. You changed daytime television. You made it possible for people like me to even exist in this space. Ricki's eyes were glistening now. She nodded once, slowly. Thank you for saying that. And then, without another word, Ricki Lake turned and walked off the stage. The cameras followed her as she disappeared through the side exit, the studio door closing behind her with a soft click that somehow sounded deafening in the silence. Kelly stood there for a moment, visibly shaken, before turning to face the audience. Well, she said, her voice not quite steady, that was not how I saw this interview going. A few nervous laughs rippled through the audience. Kelly continued, fighting to maintain composure. Sometimes conversations go in unexpected directions. Sometimes we think we're on the same page and realize we're reading completely different books. And sometimes, the most honest thing that can happen is for someone to walk away rather than pretend everything's fine when it's not. The audience began to applaud softly. Kelly held up a hand. What we deserve is maybe some time to think about what just happened and why it happened. We're going to take a quick break. As the show cut to commercial, the audience erupted into conversation. The story would dominate social media within minutes, with people taking sides and debating who was right and who was wrong. But in that studio, in that moment, there was just the aftermath of two powerful women who couldn't find a way to bridge the gap between their experiences. If you made it this far, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below answering this question. Do you think Kelly was wrong to ask about regrets? Or was Ricki too defensive from the start?